Uh, for, for today's lecture, we have Professor Indika Karunatilaka from the Medical Education Department, and he is going to tell you about the important aspects of a manuscript and how to get around to writing it. Over to you, Indika.
Thank you, Shamila. So during this session, I'll be focusing mainly on writing a manuscript. However, I'll be sharing some of my experience as an editor in one of the journals in medical education, so you'll get an idea about the process of the journal article publishing. So this is very important. Nowadays, publishing is very important. Regardless whether you are in academia or in other field, publishing is very important. And especially in peer-reviewed journals, it's now expected. Especially if you are in academia, it's definitely expected. But even you are maybe in the Ministry of Health or in other profession, still it's very important that you publish your research publications, because the main idea of doing research is actually sharing what you have found, because research is all about finding new knowledge. Therefore, it's very important that you share what you have found. And the publishing is the main way and most effective way of sharing your research findings. Okay. So nowadays, people talk about H-index, and sometimes it can be a reason to have, say, like the academic integrity or maybe like academic authority. And sometimes H-index is used as a symbol of academic authority as well. So do you have any idea what is meant by H-index? Anyone? Have you heard about this term? What is it about?
Is it a measurement calculated depending on your citations, number of your citations?
Exactly, correct. Yeah, it is not just a citation count, but how many, say, the n number of articles cited n times. So if you have, say, one article cited once, your H-index is 1. If you have 10 articles cited 10 times, at least 10 times, your H-index is 10. But having said that, if you have one article cited 100 times, your H-index still is 1, because it depends the number of articles as well as the number of times each article is cited. Okay, so it's beyond the scope of this discussion, just out of interest. Yeah. So nowadays we see more and more young professionals wanting to publish, and I think that's the reason that all of you are here as well. However, having said that, getting a paper published is not easy. And nowadays, the expected standards of journal editors are high, because there are so many researchers, so many scientists who want to publish, and therefore there's high competition. Journals are getting more and more manuscript, and the level that is expected from the journals also become high. In the past, it was easier to just get the, say, perspective kind of survey, get the perceptions of the participants and get it published, survey kind of studies. But nowadays, it's not easy anymore. Therefore, if you want to get your article published, one thing is that your methodology, the research methodology, should be substantial and adequate. There are many other factors that depend, so that will determine whether your article get published. But today we'll be mainly focusing on how to write a good manuscript, because that's the essential part. Writing a good manuscript is the essential part. Okay, but there are no magic solutions. We will see what's the scientific approach. And meanwhile, we'll try to find out what happens behind the screens also during the journal editorial process. Okay. So, most important is, if you want to publish your findings, research findings, most important is finding a suitable journal. Then writing the manuscript. Okay. Then comes correspondence and communication with the journals. And there will be a lot of reviewer feedback and revisions also. Almost always there will be reviewer feedback and suggestions and corrections. Okay. So all these things will be there. Yeah. First of all, if you want to publish, writing a good manuscript definitely important. But before that, you have to find a suitable journal that would be appropriate for your research. Again, can anyone tell me what are the factors that you would consider when selecting or trying to identify what are the suitable journal that you want to publish your findings?
The scope of the journal?
Very good, because it has to be within the area of your research, isn't it? So if you are doing something related to, say, science or maybe chemistry, then the journal should be related to that. Social sciences, again, the journal should be related to social sciences. Similarly, if I want to publish in medical education, obviously it has to be a journal that is related to into medical education. All right, what are the other things that you would consider?
Impact factor.
Very good, impact factor. What do you mean by impact factor? It's very important. Okay, you need to go for a high impact factor journal. What do you mean by impact factor?
Once you, if you have a very higher impact now factor, that means like it's well recognized, like.
Okay, yeah. So impact factor is a journal matrix. Okay, it's the number of times. It's the average number of times an article in that journal gets cited. The average number of times article in that journal gets cited. Simply put, that's the impact factor. So if you are published in a high impact factor journal, what does that mean? If you manage to publish in a high impact factor journal, what does that mean?
It is read by a lot of people.
Yes,
Article will be reviewed.
yes, correct. And
The standard is high.
definitely standard is high. It will be lot of kind of competition to get it published. Not really competition. It will be high standard, higher criteria. So it's not easy to get published in a high impact factor journal. Okay, so impact factors like 1 or 2 is not considered very high, but some journals will have very high impact factors, like, say, if you take something like New England Journal of Medicine, maybe around 30s or 40s, so very high impact factor. So that means it will be read a lot of times and it will be cited many times also. So all these advantages are there, even though it's challenging. Okay, what are the other things that you would consider? What about rejection rate? There are some journals, who will reject a lot of manuscripts. So that means one way the quality may be higher, at the same time, the chances of getting it published also not very high. So you need to consider all these factors when you are trying to decide which journal to submit your manuscript. Okay? And once you are submitted, what happens? The peer review process. Okay? Even though it is not as terrifying as what is depicted in this cartoon, you have to go through it. You have to submit your manuscript to the journal. Sometimes there may be quick review and maybe even quick rejection, or sometimes it may be sent to peers. So what do you understand by this process? What is peer review? What do you understand by peer review?
Once the article is submitted, it's scrutinized by some experts in the subject.
Exactly, some experts. But why are they called peers? Why are they called peers? Peer review. Why are they called peers?
Equal status, sort of.
Sorry?
Equal status, not
exactly. Because you, after your research, you are also considered a peer. So it's you as the author considered as the equal status when it comes to the academic publishing, equal status of the reviewers. So that is why it is called peer review, and it is to ensure the quality. Usually peer review is double blind. Usually double blind peer review, and at least 2 reviewers are involved. Okay, so one reason of getting published is that you should make sure that the peers will basically go through your manuscript, read your manuscript, and will be impressed by it and recommend for publication. Sometimes before the peer review, editor will go through and do a quick review to see whether the article or the manuscript is within the scope of the journal and whether it is suitable. Then only it will be sent to the peer review. So this is a rather tedious process, but which you have to go through, is a necessary process to ensure that your publication is of a certain accepted quality and standard. A journal without peer review is not a good journal, because there are a lot of predatory journals also. That is something that you need to consider. Now, you must be getting emails sometimes on a daily basis, okay, that if you publish in this, you have to pay this amount, but you will be getting your publications in 1 week. You must have heard or got this kind of emails. So that's also something that you need to be aware of. There are what we call predatory journals. Basically, they live on your money, because nowadays publishing is so competitive and so in demand. Since everyone wants to publish, there are some people who thrive and take advantage. That is what we call predatory journals. So you have to be careful of predatory journals also. That is why you have to go for indexed peer review journal. Okay, yeah. What is meant by indexed journal? Any idea what is meant by indexed journal?
Sort of an accreditation process or something?
So it's identified or recognized, accredited or recognized in a journal database. So popular databases are like, say, Index Medicus, okay, and maybe the PubMed, Medline, Scopus is another popular one. So there are many such databases, and nowadays there are so many indexing agencies. Some are genuine and some are very sought after, some are not so much, but there are many indexing agencies that journals will get their journals indexed. Okay, so all these are very important. So journal that you are publishing should ideally be indexed and peer reviewed. Okay, so even though it looks very kind of terrifying, it's actually not so. If you basically address the comments by the peers, generally you have a very high chance of getting your manuscript published. All right. So all these are very important. But to get the attention of the peers and get the positive review, you have to write it well. Okay. So it has to be based on current interest. For example, nowadays there's a lot of interest on COVID, and obviously it has to be well written. This is very important. Okay, well written. And authors, even though we mentioned about double blind, peer review, so on and so forth, generally research findings have shown when you have multiple authors and also like top writers within your list, and also when there are co-authors from developed countries as well as developing countries, these kind of combinations, author combinations, have better chance of getting published. Okay, so all these things are very important. Now, you can't just write in the way that you want. There's something called house style of the journal. Again, what do you understand by that? What is meant by the house style of a journal? What is meant by a house style of journal? Anyone?
The style unique to that particular journal?
Exactly. Now, when you want to publish in a particular journal, first thing you need to do is, once deciding which journal to go for, you have to look at one section. That section is called instruction for the authors, and that will tell what kind of style, what kind of format that you need to write. Okay, the structure of the article, the different kinds of articles that you can submit, manuscript that you can submit, and how you can structure them, what are the headings, subheadings, okay, and what kind of referencing style. All these things you need to follow to the very letter, not to the letter, to the very dot and comma. Okay, this is very, very important. Number of words, formatting, structuring, all these are very important. So you have to be very familiar with the house style of the journal. Now, extremely important. Now, I am telling this as an experience of an editor. The moment an editor gets a manuscript that is perfectly in line with the house style of the journal, that editor will be very impressed. Why? Why? Or vice versa, if the house style of the journal requires the Harvard style and your reference is in Vancouver, the editor will not be very much happy. Why?
Has not respected the journal.
That is exactly. I mean, the fact that you have followed the house style to the very letter or very dot or very comma in that sense shows that you have respected that journal. Okay. Otherwise, you are just the editor knows that you are just submitting for that journal for the sake of submitting. So editor will not be very impressed. Sometimes there's a possibility that it will be going through a very quick review and quick rejection. So very important, follow the house style. Okay, so that is one thing. You have to follow the house style that is exactly given in that particular journal. Referencing style. Now, even if you take Harvard, if the journal prescribes Harvard style, can you go for any kind of Harvard style? Are there many versions of Harvard, or in that case Vancouver or APA?
Yeah.
Yes, there are many varieties. Even if you take Harvard, sometimes there can be all brackets. Sometimes there may not be brackets. Sometimes there can be commas. Sometimes there may not be commas. It all depends. Okay, so you have to find out what is the exact style or the version that the journal is looking for, and you have to use that. Of course, you can use the referencing software. That's okay. But when the final submission comes, you have to make sure that everything is in line with what is expected by the journal. Style is very important. Okay. You can write passive voice. Some researchers prefer the passive voice. Some researchers, especially when you are writing maybe a perspective article, you can go for first person. That's okay. Right. So it can be like the questionnaire was distributed along those lines. That is passive voice. Or we have conducted an interview administered questionnaire or the observational study. Both ways are okay. Both are okay as long as that is consistent. As long as that is consistent. So you can either go for first person writing or passive voice. But before that, anyway, just have a look at the articles that have been previously published in that journal, and that will also give an idea about the style of writing expected. There should be a very clear flow of ideas. Okay, one idea leading to the other, because the clarity is very important. So you may be using, say, connecting words like therefore, however. Okay, because the ideas, there should be a very clear flow. Ideas, there should be a very clear flow. Very important, no errors in grammar, no errors in spelling. Okay, the moment the editor sees grammar mistakes or the spelling mistakes, automatically the perception will be negative. Okay, same with the reviewers. So definitely no errors in grammar, spelling. Style of writing very important. Clear flow of ideas. Generally, the general rule is introduction, body, conclusion. That framework applies for anything. Introduction, you are telling what you are going to tell. Okay, and then the body, you tell what you want to tell, and the conclusion. Introduction, body, conclusion. And generally, one paragraph, one idea. That should be the way. When many write their literature reviews, what they do is one research or one abstract, one paragraph. That is not the way. You have to compile. You have to compile in your literature review the ideas together. So it should be in the structure. One paragraph should be dedicated for one argument or one idea. Okay? It should be clearly classified and organized. Your manuscript has to be very well organized with a clear flow of ideas. The sections and the paragraphs has to be very clearly organized. All right. So, because it can go through different kinds of peer review. Definitely not this kind, but you have to make sure that your manuscript is very well written. So straight away, the reviewer is impressed by your manuscript. Okay. They should be able to easily understand your language. So if necessary, get professional help. Okay. But having said that, getting professional help is necessary, but it doesn't ensure in itself, it doesn't ensure a good article, because professional English writers might not have the technical background. So therefore, that aspect is important, and get feedback from your peers. So because there's a lot to be learned from others who have published before. If possible, find a good mentor who has published extensively and get their insights. So very important, the clarity of the article or the manuscript, because that straight away, if the reviewers can understand your manuscript easily, easy reading, they'll be very impressed. Sometimes you might experience that when there are writers from the countries where English is not very commonly used, okay, officially used, then the writing may be quite not up to the standard. So, but in Sri Lankans are generally lucky because the level of English in many Sri Lankans are quite good. So that's an advantage that we have. But unfortunately, we are not using that advantage to the maximum. Okay. So, good writing, very important. Catchy title. Okay. Clear and catchy title. Not short enough. It should be short enough and long enough. It cannot be very short also. Say, health is something like very broad, like health system in Sri Lanka is too broad. But it doesn't need to be very long also. You don't need to go all the details about the research population, study setting, research method. Everything doesn't need to be incorporated into the title. Okay, something like say a descriptive study about the COVID-19 preventive measures among school children in say Royal College, Colombo 7, Sri Lanka. That's too long. You don't need to say study in your title because this is a study, that's why you are publishing. But it has to be catchy enough, short enough and long enough. You don't need to put all the details regarding the setting and the study population, but some details are adequate. Say the country, that should be adequate. If that setting has specific reasons or specific kind of characteristic, then you can mention, say, the COVID-19 preventive measures among suburban population in Sri Lanka. That is fine. But you don't need to go as to the details like COVID-19 preventive measures among elderly suburban populations in Colombo 8, Maligawatta, Premadasa Mawatha, whatever. You don't need to go into those details. So it has to be short enough and long enough. Abstract has to be very clear. Okay, abstract has to be very clear. You don't need to put everything that you have found in your research. Okay, you don't need to put everything that you have to found in your research in the abstract, or in that case, in the paper. However, you can't basically pick and choose according to your biases. It has to be salient positive. It's not only positive only. It has to be salient positive, and sometimes there can be salient negative also. What do you understand by salient negative findings? It should not be only positive things. What do you understand by salient negative findings? Any idea? Salient positive
findings that does not support your research question or hypothesis.
Exactly. You have to put them. Sometimes your hypothesis may not be proved. That's fine. As long as, even though it's negative, as long as that is salient, you have to put that. So only key messages, only key findings, salient positive and salient negative findings. And generally the journal will prescribe the format for the article as well as the abstract, but the word limit and whether it has to be structured or unstructured. Generally, most of the articles abstract would be structured, and the most common format that we are thinking acronym is called IMRAD. What do you understand by this word IMRAD? IMRAD acronym. IMRAD. I'm sure many of you must have heard about this. I stands for what?
Introduction.
Exactly, yes. M.
Methods.
Yeah. R.
Results.
Yeah.
And discussion.
Analysis, discussion. Okay. There can be slight variations. IMRAD, there can be. So now you have a very easy way of structure in your abstract, and generally an easy way of identifying a general framework. But obviously, you have to modify your framework according to what is prescribed by the journal. Okay. So Introduction. This is very important. One question. When you write your manuscript, when are you going to finish writing your introduction? When are you going to finish writing your introduction?
Most of the times at the end of the paper.
Very good. Very
Yeah.
good. That's the answer that I'm expecting. Why?
Because only after you have your findings, you know where you should direct your paper.
Exactly. Because introduction should give an idea about the whole paper. Okay. So not exactly like abstract, but the whole paper. So it is like what is the problem? Okay. What is the problem? And then what is already known? What has already been done? What more to be done? And what you have done in this? Okay. It should be along those lines. What is this problem? Why this is important? Okay. What has been done? What is more to be done? What have you done? Okay, along those lines. And also the problem, it can be in a funnel approach. What's the worldwide situation, global, regional, national, and maybe institutional. So you can follow that kind of structure. Because in the introduction, you don't need to say Sri Lanka is upper middle income country, a beautiful island in the Indian Ocean, and the width of 400 kilometers and the length of say whatever. It's not in that way. Okay, I mean, there are no general cliche that you can put into introduction. Sometimes that may be important. Maybe you can write about the beautiful scenery in the country if you are writing a research for the maybe tourism. But not when you are writing a research maybe from say molecular technologies or the epidemiology. It depends. Okay, introduction should be focusing. What you should be writing should be focused. Article should be focused. Therefore, introduction, the general framework is what's the problem globally, regionally, nationally, and maybe institutionally. What has been done? What more to be done? What have you done? So that should be the introduction. So obviously, introduction should be the section that you will be finishing last, because that is where you capture everything within one short section. Literature review, again, there can be many resources, okay? Journals, textbooks, okay? But not only that, dissertations, internet, newspapers, or sometimes even unpublished resources could be there. However, whatever you do, it's very important that you have to cite. You have to cite it appropriately. Give the credit to the original work. You can't just copy and paste sections from the internet and put it into your manuscript. So that is very, very important. And some mistake that many novices do is they just copy and paste abstract and put that into literature review and think that's a literature review. It's not the way. Literature review should be a proper writing. Introduction, body conclusion should be there. Ideally, that is in the manuscript, but even in the journal article, proper structure should be there. And one idea, one paragraph. At the end of your literature review, you should basically refine your research question and your methodology should be clear. So, should aim to include the key studies that are widely cited. Okay, you can't afford to miss the key studies in that area. Another good thing is find out what are the papers that have been published in that particular journal. Maybe you can incorporate few of the citations into that also. Okay, that's some kind of trick that you can use. Why? Why it is an advantageous thing. Citing some of the papers from that particular journal that you are publishing. What are the reasons? Any ideas?
One is that since it is the same journal, it might relate to your own scope. And the other thing is reviewers may also be motivated because they will also be, it would also add to the citations.
Not the reviewer actually. Editor will be very motivated. Because editors also want to basically develop their journal. And what does it mean to the editor? Once you have put maybe 1 or 2 citations from that particular journal, what does it mean to the journal? That means the impact factor of that particular journal can go up. Isn't that so? Yeah, it's not very ethical practice, but from your side, and also then the editor knows that you have respected that journal. So all these things will be very positive in getting your manuscript published. Okay. Anyhow, you should aim to include key studies in your literature review, and it should hang together with good flow of ideas leading to one to another. Data should be presented very clearly. As I have mentioned previously, you don't need to include everything. You cannot include everything that you have found. Maybe you must have found out all the demographic data, maybe the religion, maybe culture, ethnicity, everything. But you might not need to put everything unless it is relevant. Why you should limit? Why you should limit what you put into your journal article? Any reason again? Why you should restrict it? One thing is obviously you need to focus. Okay, because if you put so many irrelevant findings, there should not be irrelevant findings in the first place. Then the reviewers will not be able to get your message clearly. Okay? And there's another thing that editor would be interested also. If your article is focused, okay? If the article is focused, and if it is within the word limit, okay? And if it is within the number of tables and the maybe figures and images that is prescribed by the journal, the editor will be rather happy. Why?
They have that copyright.
Okay, that they can anyway check the copyright and the plagiarism, they can check. Any other reason why they will be happy that your article is basically within the limits and focused? In the past, one reason was the space limitations. Okay? In the past, the problem was the space limitation because printing is expensive. Okay? And then that's why the word limitation, so on and so forth. It is not too much of a problem nowadays with the online publishing. But having said that, still, if the article is too lengthy, it will not be very readable. Okay? And if there are too many details within the article, that means a lot of formatting and copy editing for the journal office. So all these things would mean extra work. Therefore, you have to be focused and incorporate only salient findings. So there are many advantages in writing a focused research manuscript. Okay? And the presenting data. Presenting data, you can present in many ways. It can be photographs, text boxes, tables, okay, so on and so forth. But always remember that space is at a premium. Even in its online journal, still space is at a premium. So journal editors will be very much cognizant about that factor. And when you present data, okay, present it clearly. This is what we call the New York skyline type of graphs. So this kind of graph, the journal editors will not be very happy because it's not very clear. Okay? And another thing is when you are submitting your manuscript, generally they will instruct to submit the original tables and graphs as separate files. In your manuscript, you have to just mention figure 1 or table 1, but you have to submit them, generally you have to submit them separately. Why? If you are submitting say maybe a table or maybe a graph, you have to submit them separately. Any reason why?
Formatting in publishing.
Exactly. If you just submit an image, and if the journal editor, the journal work in the office, when they are converting that into what we call galley proof. Galley proof is the version just before publishing, which will be sent to you. When they are doing the galley proof, they have to do it within a particular format, and they will not be able to format it if you submit them as maybe JPEG. That's why you need to submit as original files. And your graphs has to be clear, not something like what we call the railway timetable graphs. Okay? Use fewer numbers and round up or down the figures. Say you don't need to go to the 5th decimal point. Okay? Maybe 2 decimal points is more than enough. Whenever possible, use graphs or charts compared to tables. Why? Compared to a table, whenever possible, go for a graph. Any reason?
Easy to understand.
easy to understand. Within short time, they can understand. The reviewers will be able to get your message within very short time, because reviewers are also very busy people. If they can get the message visually, then they will be very impressed, and it will be very easier for them to decide. And find out the right format, because there are many different types of charts and graphs, like the line graphs, time trends, okay? So pie charts, bar charts. So find out what is most appropriate for you. But don't have very large number of data points. Put them together, okay? Combine them together, have a minimum number of data points. All right. The discussion, again, one mistake that many do is that put in the same thing, the results, as a summary of the discussion. It is not so. What should be the discussion actually? What should be the discussion? Is it just summarizing what you have found? What should be the discussion?
You must analyze your data.
You have to analyze your findings. Analyze against what? Or analyze in comparison to what?
Build up an argument with your
Already available data.
That's the most important. You have to discuss your findings in the light of current literature. So in this research, we have found this. However, Silva and Pereira, in a study conducted in 2010, have found out different. The difference between those may be like that you have to discuss in that way. So that's the way that you write your discussion. It has to, they don't speak for this itself. You have to analyze, you have to interpret, and the interpretation has to be based on in the light of the available literature. And there cannot be any unsupported claims. Okay? There cannot be any unsupported claims. It has to be in the same sequence. Like if there's one sequence that you have put your objectives, your methodology also should be in the same sequence. Your results also should be present in the same sequence, and the discussion also should be in the same sequence. And there cannot be findings or the discussions or the claims that are just coming out of claims. Nowadays, when it comes to COVID, you see some of the research findings are misinterpreted. Okay? Recently also there were many. So all these are wrong research practices. There cannot be any unsupported claims. Nowadays, you can find enough and more information about misinterpretation of research findings and unsupported claims. Okay? Referencing, very, very important. Follow scientific referencing style. Every dot, every comma, every semicolon matters, and find out what's the exact style your journal wants. Because there are many variations or many versions even within one referencing style. And there should be references within the body of the text and in the list. Okay? So every reference that is in the list has to be cited within the body of text also. And your style has to be consistent. In one citation, you can't have commas. In other one, without commas. It has to be exactly consistent style. Every dot, comma has to be consistent. Very, very important. One thing as an editor review I always do is, first thing I do is actually go to the referencing style. If the referencing style is not good, then the first impression is not very superb or fantastic one. So be very consistent in your referencing. The moment an editor or reviewer sees very well cited, very well referenced article, consistent article, almost always, the mindset is very positive. Follow submission guidelines. Always have a soft copy of what you have submitted. Okay? And submit tables and graphs separately. You have to identify a corresponding author. And you have to write a concise cover letter that describes why this is so important. What is new? What is important about work? And that has to be addressed to the editor. And writing this cover letter in a professional way is very important, because that will catch the attention of your editor. And once submitted, then it's rather patience process. Okay? Takes time. It's very rare for a manuscript to be accepted without changes. Okay? It's very, very rare. In my life, there was only once it has happened for me. It's very, very rare for a manuscript to be accepted without changes. So review editions could be rejected or accepted, and maybe major changes, minor changes, doesn't matter. Don't get disheartened. Okay? When you are responding to the feedback, demonstrate that you have considered all the points in the feedback. However, it doesn't mean that you need to accept all recommendations. The best thing is have a table. Have all the reviewer comments on one column and your response in another column, and how it is incorporated into the revised manuscript. So it can be time consuming and sometimes frustrating, but ultimately, if you keep on, ultimately you'll be able to get it published. Okay, because even the work of top scholars is rejected. Everyone, all of us have published extensively. Our manuscript have been rejected many times. Okay, so no need to go for confrontation, no need to go for legal action against a journal. Don't take it personally. Another clue I can give you is, if you keep on submitting, someday, if you find the right journal for your article, you will definitely get it published. However, the final word is with the editor, and be polite. Okay? And if you don't succeed, try again. But ultimately, if a study that's original, practically important, academically rigorous, very well written, grammatically correct, no spelling errors, no citation errors, and bit of strategic approach with a clear understanding of this journal publishing process, your success rate of publishing is very high, and the celebration is there. All right. So this is the end of the lecture, but we can have a bit of discussion if there are areas that you want to clarify.
Sir, one question, especially regarding literature review. So when we are writing the literature review, sir, let's say now we are doing a descriptive cross-section study. Is it must to have same studies in the literature review, or can we have different studies?
You need to have different studies. You need to have different studies. Yeah.
Okay.
You should have different studies. Because, I mean, it is not only one study. You need to have different studies. The idea of literature search is, literature review is you combine findings from many research together and come out with an analytical kind of argument and your flow of ideas. So that should be the way you write your literature search. For example, like Silva and Silva, in a cross-sectional study that was conducted in Sri Lanka, has found out that the nutrition in Sri Lankan children is quite low. However, in another study conducted in India, the findings are different. The reasons may be that the two settings and the research methodologies are different. Something like that. It has to be combined in many to come out with a cohesive and a logical argument.
Okay, sir. So how can we differentiate this discussion and the literature review? Because sometimes we tend to write similar information in the literature review as well as in the discussion. So how can we differentiate, sir?
Okay. Yeah. Now, if you take a journal article, they might not ask a separate literature review section. But when it comes to maybe a dissertation, definitely yes. But however, having said that, actually, literature review is everywhere in your paper. In your paper, literature review is everywhere, even though they don't ask for, generally they don't ask for a separate literature review section. Literature review is everywhere in your paper. Even if you take an introduction, when you discuss the problem, the global situation, you have to cite literature. When you describe your methodology, you have to cite literature and find out and go into the approaches that have been taken by other researchers. When you discuss, again, you discuss your research findings in the light of the current literature. So the focus differs. The literature review is actually throughout your article. In the introduction, you are using it to describe what's the problem, what has been done, what more to be done. Okay, and your methodology section, you are using it to justify your methodology. In your discussion section, you are basically discussing your findings in the light of current research evidence. Okay, so it's everywhere. That's how you differentiate.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Any more questions?
So now, as much as you justify your research problem and the necessity to conduct your study in the introduction chapter, is it always necessary to justify your methodology and the sample and the analysis in a paper? Like in a say a proposal for a higher degree, it's always necessary to justify the methodology, no? So similarly in a paper, is it always necessary?
Not to that extent. One thing is, anyway, there is word limitations, not to that extent. But But you have to write a strong methodology in your research paper, because that will be the only paper, only kind of the document that the reviewers will be going through now. So you need to write a very strong methodology. In that way, it may be necessary to cite to the literature, but not to the extent that you will be writing in your maybe the dissertation or the thesis. Another thing is, introduction anyway will have a strong justification. So it's not to that extent, but it has to be succinct and strong, but not extensive. Your research paper has to be focused.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir, can we publish the same research, like can we publish the abstract in one journal and then publish the whole full paper in another paper? Is it okay, or is there a problem in that?
Yeah, I mean, generally journals will not be publishing only an abstract. Then it will
No,
be
I
maybe
mean, no, for
in
an
the research.
proceeding, conference proceeding,
That's okay. That's okay. I mean, that can always happen. I mean, because the proceedings book of the conference will not have a full article. No, there may be some situations where some conferences will be asking for the extended abstract, or maybe even full paper if you are a very high level researcher. But generally, the proceedings book will publish only the abstract. In that case, that is absolutely perfect. Actually, it is expected that you present your findings as an abstract in a conference. It's expected that you convert your abstract into a journal article. In that way, that's perfectly okay. That's perfectly okay. What is not good is doing one research and then cutting that into different small sections and publishing in as different papers. That is what we call salami papers. You cut the sections and publish. That is not acceptable. But having abstract in proceedings book and publication in another journal is perfectly all right.
Thank you, sir.
And also, sir, now the research question in the introduction, is it all right for it to be implied rather than to expressly mention it? If it is implied in the discussion, of course, will it be enough?
Research question or the hype, yeah. I mean, basically, yeah, at the end of the introduction, you will be anyway introducing the research question. No? I mean, the whole idea of the introduction is introducing the research question. So it will anyway happen. And in the methodology section also, you have to mention that. The objectives or the research question or the hypothesis you have to mention. You have to mention it specifically. So yeah, I don't know whether I have got your question, the exact question that you want to answer, but you have to mention.
What I meant was, do we need to sort of expressly say that this is our question, or if it is just like say implied in our analysis explanation, that is enough?
In the methodology section, you have to mention, because I mean you are going to find the answer to a particular question, no? So it is better to specify it clearly in the introduction as well as in the method, because otherwise the reviewers will not know what you have been trying to find. So in that way, better not to keep it implied. You have to mention it. You have to mention what you are trying to find or to prove. The clarity is very important.
So just one more question, sir.
Sure.
So explain regarding this indexed peer-reviewed journals. So is there any specific way that we can find it out? So you mentioned regarding Scopus, PubMed, and all that. So like in a practical aspect, sir, now can we just go to Google and type as indexed peer-reviewed journals for specific area? So we will be getting it. So is there any other specific way that we can like attend to that, sir? Is there any specific way?
Okay, yeah. the best way and the most reliable way would be to go to that particular journal itself. Actually, I mean, most of the journals now, they are available online, no? So go to the journal. Then in the journal there is what we call the masthead. Masthead is a section in the page that will give you all the details. What is a publisher and what are the search the indexing agencies where the journal has been indexed, and then the impact factor. All these details will be incorporated in a section called masthead, journal masthead. That may be either in the print, hard print, or maybe in the website. So go to the journal itself. That is one way. Another thing is now the indexing agencies like maybe the Scopus, they publish their list. So there are several high-level indexing agencies like the Science Citation Index, okay, or maybe the Social Science Citation Index, or Scopus. When you go to them, every year they publish the list of journals that have been indexed. So that is one way. So go for the reliable sources. The most important is go to the journal masthead, because anyway you have to go to that particular journal. No, when you go to that particular journal masthead, you will get a lot of information, whether it's a decent journal, the way the website is formatted and the website is presented. You can get a lot of idea whether it's a reliable, decent journal or a predatory journal, or maybe a journal that is not very much worth. So there are two ways to find out whether they are indexed or not. And also by going to Google, you might not be able to find out whether they are indexed. But when you go to Google Scholar, if that journal name appears in Google Scholar, okay, or articles from that particular journal appear in Google Scholar, that means it will add to your Google Scholar citation count. In that way, that could be an advantage. But if
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
There's one more question coming.
So what is the chance of publishing an audit in a journal, sir?
Audit is not necessarily research. Audit is not necessarily research. I mean, it's for practice improvement. No? But there are journals who would publish audit as long as you specifically mention that as an audit. I mean, there are some journals who will publish audit or maybe even case studies. That's possible. So again, best to go for a particular journal and go into the instruction for authors, and they will list what are the categories that they will be publishing. There will be journals who will be publishing audits. It's possible.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Another thing is you must have heard about, say, open source journals. So these are journals where now generally, even if you publish a paper, even as an author, later if you want to get a copy of your article, you will have to pay in most of the commercial journals. Okay, or maybe high index commercial journals, you'll have to pay. But there are some journals which are called open source, where the readers, they don't need to pay anything to access the articles from that journal. But those journals, they will charge a fee from you, because that's how basically they survive. They are charging from the researcher and not from the reader. But in a way, it's a positive thing, because there is better chance of disseminating your findings. So these possibilities are also there. Okay, so I think we have covered most of the questions for today's session. Ultimately, most important is well written, well structured. Always follow the instruction to the very letter. Okay, with that and good methodology, with all these guidelines, you will be able to succeed. With that, I will hand over to Professor Shamila Jayasena to conclude the session. Over.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Indika, Professor Indika. I think that was a very interesting session, and I'm sure you all learned a lot. So thank you very much. And I think Dr. Ashok is with us already. We have another lecture at 7. Hi, it's Dr. Ashok.
Oh yeah, hi, hello, good morning.
Hi, hello,
Good
hello.
evening on your side.
Hi.